Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Get a Load of This podcast. I'm joined here today with the fellow co-host Ryan Young, and I am Thomas Comstock. Today, Lindsey Trent from NextGen Trucking is going to be speaking about what her company's been doing and how they've been engaged with the community at large. And I think we'll let Lindsey have a little bit quick few minutes here to kind of tell us exactly where you're from, and then we'll kind of jump into the conversation.
Hey, sure. My name's Lindsey Trent, and I'm the president and co-founder of the Next Generation in Trucking Association. We are a grassroots movement, and our mission is to raise awareness around careers in trucking, and then to also help schools create programs so that young people can learn how to become professional diesel technicians, professional drivers, supply chain and logistics managers. So, really working on getting the supply chain and trucking into secondary schools.
Okay. And I know that you did come onto the podcast back in October of 21 and kind of went over a bunch of different things that you guys were doing, things like trying to get some people to join your association so you can create partnerships with educators and vendors, trying to create a nonprofit for scholarships and things like that. Have you guys been successful in achieving those goals?
Yeah, so we officially launched July of 2021. And I mentioned we're a grassroots movement. Well, we were all working for employers at the time that we launched. And even when we met in October of 2021, I was still a full-time employee of Ryder. But now I was able to go full-time with the association to really work on the mission. We're growing the amount of programs and relationships with educators and students. And we're growing our membership base, which is helping fund the mission.
That's awesome. And have you guys been seeing lots of engagement from the community at large, or has this been kind of a uphill battle for you?
Yeah. So, in terms of education, I mean, they're eager to provide good opportunities for their students. So, they've heard about the supply chain because of COVID. They know that if trucking doesn't exist, their shelves will be not stocked. And
Hmm.
so when we are meeting with educators and influencers over education, they're excited to be able to provide this opportunity for their students. One of the things that's great about trucking, as you all know, is that it's in every community, whether it's rural or urban. And educators, they want to keep students in their cities and their towns. And so if they can provide opportunities where a living wage can be made and the students can be employed within their district, then they want to provide those opportunities. So within education, there's a lot of interest. And then with organizations and in the industry, they know that they have this large need for workforce development, and we're helping them in terms of workforce development for the younger generation. They might also be trying to target 35, 40-year-old, 50-year-olds to come and work for them, but we're trying to target and influence young people to come into the trucking industry. Other industries are doing it. It's getting tighter and tighter over the next 10 years. We're going to see less people coming out of high school. We're going to see more open positions in every industry. So it is going to be tighter and tighter of a squeeze. And we've got to start reaching these young people now. Otherwise, they're going to become welders. They're going to become plumbers and electricians. I think trucking, we have a great opportunity to offer these great careers. So we've got to get these young people knowledgeable about what they are and then help them get trained to come into the trucking industry.
Absolutely, yeah. And this isn't something that just happens overnight. So, I mean, you've been doing the work. How long has NextGen been around again?
So we officially launched in July of 2021.
Okay.
And
Right.
before that, we were forming the organization and working on the mission.
Right.
And then we were able to launch. It's a lot of work to put it together, a nonprofit. There's a lot of paperwork. We have both an association and foundation. So we have two boards of directors, two sets of bylaws. So there's a lot of things that go into it.
Of course. Yeah. Well, and I guess by saying it's not overnight, this is a process for not just outreach, but it's a process for education. So, how is the pipeline from obviously, we kind of hear a little bit about you starting and talking to, different organizations or institutions and trying to reach young people, but what is the actual pipeline once they get into your program and potentially go into, different organizations and start working? Like what is the time there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So typically we work in three verticals: diesel mechanics,
Hmm.
CDL driving, and supply chain and logistics. A program in a high school is typically 2 to 4 years long. So they're taking English, they're taking math, but they're also taking, logistics 101, or they're taking hydraulics, depending on what path they're in. So they're getting trained while they're in high school. Some of them go on to community college. Some of them go straight into the workforce. I was at a high school yesterday that just started a high school trucking program. And I was with one of our member partners, FedEx. They donated a trailer to this program. And we were talking to the students there, and the students they loved this class, by the way. They're all seniors. They're learning about being professional drivers at the class. They have a driver simulator. It's very hands-on. When they delivered the FedEx trailer donation, they did an inspection. Hey, let's go around this trailer and look, let's give it an inspection. And I got to talk to all of these students and asking them what they were doing. And a few of them were going to community college. A few of them were going into wanted to be technicians. The rest of them wanted to be drivers. One of them is going to work for a small trucking company in the area. The other one was going to work for a John Deere implement dealer that has a fleet of trucks. So there's a lot of interest, but it's about exposure. It's about education. It's about opportunity. And we have to be able to provide those opportunities. Otherwise, there's other things that are going to present itself to them. And so it's really fun talking to these students. Several of them grew up on a farm, so they're using this CDL that they're getting in this course to help work on the farm while they're going to college. There's just so many great opportunities that we have within education to fill that pipeline. One of the other things that we're really heavily involved in is student organizations and organizations that influence education. So we'll be at the American School Counselors Association this summer, talking to all of the school counselors about the trucking industry, talking about careers in trucking. We will be at the Association of Career Technical Education again this year. We'll be at FFA, the National Convention. Any guess as to how many students attend the National FFA Convention every year?
I'd imagine fairly low.
Fairly low. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so we had 85,000 students last year at the convention. And these students, yeah, right. So much success with our booth there that we're tripling our booth size. And last year we had a driver simulator there, literally from the time the doors opened at 8 a.m. to the time they closed in the exhibit hall at 5. We had a crowd of students around our booth because they all wanted to drive the driver simulator or watch their friend drive the simulator. We also had VR headsets where you can change the oil in a truck. Or change the tire of a truck within virtual reality. So really just talking to students, letting them know about careers in trucking. And, we even talked to a lot of students that grew up on farms and they drive and they're 16. So those people are out there, but it's about connecting the dots and saying, hey, this is a great opportunity. We'd love for you to consider.
Yeah, I know that. Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
No, you got it. You're good, buddy.
All right. So I know that last time you were on here, you're talking about having that nonprofit, which it seems like is in full effect considering the extra board members that you have with that arm. You're talking about potentially offering scholarships in an attempt to help connect those dots more effectively for some up and coming students that are interested. Have you guys been able to facilitate those scholarships or partnerships for donations with education resources for schools and programs?
Yeah, so most of what we've been doing with that arm is creating curriculum and curriculum development and educational resources. So um, eventually we will work for scholarships, but I'm finding there are a lot of scholarships out there and a lot of funding that goes untapped. We feel like as we have developed our foundation, that the best thing that we can do right now is to help fund curriculum that can go into all of the schools across the country that are starting trucking programs, as well as helping schools start programs. And so our funding is creating these educational resources and giving them to schools to help build up that pipeline, as opposed to just giving one person a scholarship. This way it can snowball and more people can be impacted through our foundation.
No, I like that a lot. Being able to help more people is always more beneficial. So that's pretty awesome. So I got a question because I know Ryan could probably attribute or back me up on this one, but being involved with the logistics industry, especially right now, there's a bit of a bust mentality going on out there with oversaturation of underpaid loads, driver shortages, diesel mechanic shortages, which are some of the things that you guys specialize in. How are you prepping, new and upcoming students that are getting into this industry for these booms and bust cycles so they can plan accordingly?
Yeah, so for us, really, it's all about quality. Um, Providing that quality training, having standardized training where these young people are getting a lot of hours of safety training, a lot of hands-on knowledge that's well-rounded. For instance, with our CDL program, we work with the supply chain fitness company, Mark Manera, who is teaching drivers how to stay healthy on the road, how to make good choices when you're at a stop and you need to buy fast food or you have to buy food at a truck stop, how to exercise while you're on the road, how to stay mentally healthy while you're on the road. And so we're not just about getting a driver out there and saying, hey, here you go, good luck. We want to do this well-rounded leadership skills, soft skills. We want the best drivers in our industry. We want to raise the image of the trucking industry. And we feel like if we can provide great training programs come alongside schools to do that, then we're going to have that strong, long lasting employee in the trucking industry that will have a long career with a great career path where they might be a driver and become an owner operator. Maybe they go into operations or safety. But it's really about providing that foundation. And that's what we're all about.
Right. And just kind of piggyback on what Thomas is saying as well. I mean, you guys obviously are doing a great job in your hours just going. I know that one of the main issues I'm seeing right now is there was this giant bust during COVID where they were just trying to move freight as much as possible and people were getting paid rates that were kind of unheard of now and even previously. So I think that there were a lot of businesses that were starting and they weren't having, I guess, reasonable margins to operate continuously. Curious, is there already something implemented, or is there kind of as part of your well-rounded helping people understand like the financial aspects of like running a trucking business? Because I think that's hugely important, and I think that it's something that's getting missed at least a lot right now. I'm seeing that people are not able to survive partially as a result of that. There are a lot of other influences, but you see.
Yeah, that is a great question. And we actually get that a lot. And so one thing that we are creating a 1-year curriculum, but we are also in the process of making it a 2-year pathway. And with that, adding that financial component, those soft skills, leadership skills, and then management and financial skills that these young people will need in order to first of all, run their household. But second of all, if they want to become an owner operator, how can they run their business? We have several organizations within NextGen who strictly utilize owner operators. And how can we work with them to create a financial, wellness program? And that is something that we've talked about. In particular, Evans Delivery and Mercer Transportation. Those are two companies that have a lot of owner operators. And what can we do to mentor these young people to be able to be successful?
Yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, I know that I got no financial literacy skills out of school when I was younger, and it took me, I'm sure all of us can say the same thing. It's like I didn't really learn how to be financially, I don't know, efficient until I was in my 30s. So it's kind of one of those things that I know in this industry, there's going to be fluxes or it's going to fluctuate from one type of market to the next. So it's cool to hear that you guys are staying engaged in that aspect of it. I'm
Yeah.
curious also on the, I guess, institutional side, as far as the government, how involved is the government wanting to be in addressing the issue of driver shortage? Like, are you guys getting a lot of, I guess, positive response from governmental agencies, or is it delayed? What are you seeing there?
Well, I mean, we would love to apply for a federal grant to help schools start the programs, because literally we have the infrastructure in place, and the schools that are interested, that if we got a $10 million grant, we would turn around and give it to these high schools and career tech ed centers that are wanting to start programs, and help them to be able to get those programs started now. As it stands today, they have to use their Perkins funding, or they have to apply for a state grant to get a program started. So that is in terms of grants, but we also work with workforce boards, and schools have Perkins funding out there. There's $1.3 billion of federal funding that goes towards career technical education. It's just a matter of what they put that funding towards. Are they going to put that funding towards culinary arts and automotive and woodworking, or are they going to put that towards trucking? And they have a choice. And so if trucking has 20 programs and woodworking has 1,200, well, the woodworking industry is going to get more money than we are. And that is how it is today. But if we start creating more trucking programs, then we're going to get that funding towards our industry that's already there. It's just going to other places.
So it is really from the ground up. Like you're just going at it, boots on the ground, convention to convention, organization to organization, and really just making that impact on a large scale. But I'm sure that until now, maybe it felt a little more slow moving.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is really, we're trying to get the buy-in from the industry. There's 26,000 high schools.
Right.
We can't be everywhere, but what if you started working in your backyard and engaging with your school? I was at our local career tech ed center. They had a career fair, and I went there to represent trucking. And it was a great time. I enjoyed every moment of it. I had some great conversations, and these students, they don't know what they want to do. So somebody's got to be there and say, hey, this is an opportunity. There was a whole room of healthcare people trying to get them to come into healthcare. There was a couple booths that had a trucking, trucking aspect. And so, we've got to start working in our own backyard. We want to get the buy-in from the industry to start acting, to start creating these internal committees at their company to say, what can we do to start working with young people and workforce development and just exposing them? Maybe it's a field trip. Maybe it's going to talk to a class about the trucking industry. Maybe it's taking a truck to a school, or having a field trip come to your facility. There's a lot of opportunities, and there's 26,000 high schools across the country. So you can do something.
Of course. How's your outreach going with the company? Is just curious. I know that that's probably interesting from a resource standpoint from some of the companies. I imagine you're getting a little more positive response from some of the larger companies in the industry, but is it something you're finding challenging going to some of these companies and asking them to, here's what you can do to help lure young people into this career? What are you seeing from their side on implementation?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I feel like there's a lot of ways I could answer that. We're a long-term investment, right? We want an employer to come alongside with us and for us to help them plan workforce development for them long term. I'm not going to be the person that says, hey, I'm going to get you 30 drivers by the end of the year. We are trying to change the entire aspect of the trucking industry and try to change perspectives of young people about trucking. And we need employers to do that. And so if we can come alongside them, and, it really, the membership of NextGen varies. We have a lot of big corporations and we have a lot of family owned companies. I love family owned companies because they really truly care about their community and they want their community to thrive. And sometimes they're the largest employer in their community. And they have a vision and a goal, and they want to invest in their community with their school system. But then there's some amazing people at large corporations that want to do that for their location, for their distribution center. And so we work with everybody, small, big. It's all about the mission. It's all about helping schools and raising awareness. And there's a lot of success, and there's really no rhyme or reason for who's a member of NextGen.
Amazing.
No, that's really awesome. I love what you guys are doing for this industry. I know that the aging population out there is something that's going to be coming to a head here in the next decade or so, when people are going to need to be retiring and trying to make sure that we replace the aging workforce. I kind of got to have a question about how you guys are trying to entice the younger generation into the industry, because I know that there's a lot of things that could work for them and work against them. Things like, being able to afford an electric vehicle if they're, say, living in California, or being able to take advantage of this industry rather than going into something that might be replaced with AI, things like, software development or other college heavy career focused pathways. How are you guys combating or educating new up and coming drivers on why this is a good choice for them?
Yeah. So one of the things that young people are really interested in is technology. And I think that with electric vehicles, hydrogen fuel cell, autonomous trucks, it's going to be more of an operating job versus out there driving. And so trying to connect the dots with young people about the future and that it's bright and that technology is going to be driving us, but that technology is going to be our friend. It's going to be a good thing. The other thing you kind of talked about is like software development and AI. When I was at that career fair a few weeks ago, I talked to a few students that said, "Oh, I want to be an engineer." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, did you know that trucking has engineers? There are people who engineer routes. There are people who engineer machines and trucks and trailers and refrigerated units." And so you can work in trucking and be an engineer, or you can be a software developer within the trucking industry. So, really being out there and educating young people and their parents too, right? And educators, like there's a lot of jobs within trucking.
That makes a lot of sense. I think, there is, like you said, a lot of benefit to technology as far as how it can benefit us in the future. I know that there's lots of pushback, and I think that we just actually both shared a conversation some gentleman was having in front of Congress about California's implementation of the electric vehicle and engines. How do you feel about that and its impacts with the trucking industry at large in the coming years?
Well, I think that electric vehicles are great, right? But you have to have the infrastructure in place. And you have to know that an electric battery, if it weighs, 10,000 pounds, and you have to have all of this freight that's moved, then there's no solution at this point to those heavy trucks and heavy batteries that, 80,000 pounds, right? There has to be space to be able to travel long distances, have the infrastructure, and have the amount of weight that is going to make a load worth the money to be out there on the road. So
that makes a lot of sense, actually. I think, my primary concern, at least with the people I talk with out there, is having to replace their current equipment, and how, like you said, the infrastructure isn't there to be able to enable them to actually do their jobs effectively and quickly because of charge times rather than fueling up times. And like you said, that capacity of the weight of that battery really impacting their ability to haul their loads that they would be normally accustomed to hauling. So I'm kind of personally a little skeptical about how this is going to work out, just because I know some state governments are trying to think a little bit too hard to push these initiatives that without the proper foresight, and like the infrastructure again keeps popping up in my head. Fixing that problem first is paramount. Do you have any words of advice for any up and coming students that would help them understand the role of technology more effectively within the industry? Or do you think that that's something they kind of have to dive into to understand and their place within it?
that's a great question. I mean, I think we as an industry can expose them to the technology that we're working on and educate them. But I also think for a young person, if they want to be involved in trucking, they also have to, come and see. That's why sometimes field trips can be great. Or yesterday at the school that I was at, it was a brand new Peterbilt. It had 900 miles on it. And it was like, hey, you guys come sit in this truck and look at all the buttons and the great technology that is in this truck. So just exposure and exposing them, and then teaching them and just letting them know, hey, we're an industry that cares about technology, and this is going to be a part of your life if you're in the trucking industry, and we hope you are.
Absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of technology and just integrating, how is technology being integrated into the curriculum that you guys are helping expose students to now? Because obviously, education has changed a lot in the last decade or so, and it seems to be evolving faster than, some of us can keep up with mentally. But can you tell us how technology is being utilized, like in the curriculum the NextGen is focusing on?
Yeah. So with the company that we're using, the Education Development Center, they use a lot of different technologies, and we use a hybrid method of some online platform, some in-person teaching, and hands-on. So we highly believe in driver simulation training, where they're going to get 30 hours of lab time behind the wheel of a truck on a driver simulator. One of Dave's students texted him a few months ago out of the blue and said, hey, I want to thank you for saving my life. And Dave was like, what happened here? And the student, who is an 18-year-old driver in the state of California, lost a steer tire. It blew. And that student knew exactly what to do, because he had practiced over and over again a blowout of a steer tire and how you react. And so he didn't have any time to react. His body just naturally knew what it was trained to do. And he got it off to the side of the road, and he is okay. He avoided an accident. He was able to steer it to the side of the road. And so that driver simulation training for young people, we think, is invaluable, to give them a safe space to explore what it's like to be a professional driver and all of the different situations you're going to come across.
Amazing.
Do you guys have any goals that you're trying to work on that you're going to provide any extra kind of curriculum ideas or courses or partnerships with NextGen I know that, when we first spoke, 18 months ago, you guys had the idea of getting the nonprofit up and running, which you've been successful with. You've gotten a lot of partnerships and have been able to transition from volunteer work to more hands-on role within the organization. Where are you guys going from here on out?
Yeah. So, a big thing on my radar right now, not only is getting that curriculum created, which it'll be ready September 30th of this year, um, having that out here rolled out. We are doing a train the trainer program this summer. So teachers that are implementing the truck driver training program, we're providing them a training event. We're also hoping to start mentoring programs. And then, I see a lot of value and opportunity in dock to driver programs. So trying to connect the dots. I'm 18 years old. I know I don't want to go to college. I really don't have a whole large skill set, but I want to work. What are some opportunities for me? Well, there are really good jobs that they can work on a dock. They can, do forklift driving, and they can learn the ins and outs of warehousing and logistics, loading trucks. And so I think that we're really going to be focusing on that career path of saying, hey, we have these jobs. You have 18-year-olds that are graduating. Do you want them to go work for McDonald's and fast food? Or, hey, here's an opportunity where they can come work on the dock. We're going to train them, and eventually they're going to get their CDL. Eventually, they can, own their own truck with our company, or eventually they can go and move into operations, or they can be a trainer. So just providing those entry level opportunities with the employers and members that we have within our organizations, and the relationships we have with schools and education influencers. And so I think that's going to be a big focus of ours as we move forward.
Well, absolutely.
So outside of,
We fail, something we fail to focus on, especially just as somebody who's a young teenager, is we're just trying to make money, right? When you're that young, you're not really necessarily, I'd say 50% of students, if not more, are not necessarily sure of what their next step is. And like myself, like I worked at McDonald's when I was younger. So it's like, you go to McDonald's, but it's not really a career path, right? I mean, not saying that you can't make a career out of it, nothing wrong with that, but generally people kind of stay with it because they're there, not necessarily because they love working at McDonald's, right? So it's like you're offering an opportunity for people to get into a career and learn a specialty. And I mean, I just think it's incredible. So how receptive have students been, like, that are already kind of going through these programs and are really like working towards his career? I mean, I know we have the one story about the kid who says that David saved his life, which is also amazing. But what's the kind of positive feedback you're getting from students going through these programs?
Yeah. So I was presenting to a class of students that are seniors last week. There was 10 of them, and we were talking about the trucking industry and careers in trucking. And I asked them, and you can see it in their face, right? Like, are they being honest? And I said, are you glad you took this class? And I had wide eye opening. Yes, we are so glad we took this class. And so it is really just about seeing those expressions, and knowing that there is a whole generation of young people that want opportunity. They want a career. They want something good for their life, and they want to start on that now. They don't necessarily want to go into student loan debt and go to college for 2 more years or 4 more years. They're ready. And so it is about connecting them to these great opportunities, educating them. And I think that they're really excited. They're very receptive, and they are ready to get out there and start making money and having an impact.
Love it.
what do you think the biggest challenges that you are facing as a company besides exposure to these young candidates?
Our biggest challenge?
Yeah.
I would just say funding, right? Like, give me $10 million and I will make a huge dent in getting programs started and getting these, giving this money to the schools that are going to be able to make a difference. So that's kind of hey, there's all of these grants out there, and I get them every day, and some of them I just think, oh my gosh, what this, I just think if we could get funding for workforce development and starting these programs, that we can make a huge dent and make an impact in the next generation and getting them trained.
Okay. So funding is the big one, and that's primarily going to be like gained by grants and government funds. Basically, is that kind of what you're looking for? Are you looking for private investors?
Yeah, no, I mean, that is more like the grants. For us, we are loving working on our mission. We need more members to join to help us fund the mission. We're walking that fine line between working on our mission, right? Meeting with schools, meeting with principals, superintendents, school counselors, making a voice out there for trucking, getting this curriculum written, getting these programs out across the country. But then we also have to fund our mission through membership. So getting companies to join our association so that we can work on the mission. And we're finding a lot of success when one of our members, an organization says, hey, we want our local school to start a trucking program. And we will meet with them and help them to get on the path to start that trucking program. But when an educator, like a superintendent of a school, says, oh, there's a large employer in my area and they're interested in starting a trucking program and us partnering together to do that, there's a lot of success in getting that started pretty quickly.
That's awesome. And can you walk us through the actual membership process again? I know we discussed this last time, but I think it would just be important for anybody listening. Like, how can they get involved with NextGen Trucking? And then I guess a second aspect to that question would be, what can anybody interested in just getting involved in the cause do to maybe help affect change at a larger level? Membership is the start of it. We're talking about getting grants. We're talking about a lot of other things.
Yeah. So, membership, you can just go on our website, nextgentrucking.org, and you can join right from our website. You can contact and send us an email if you want to learn more. And we can have a face-to-face meeting about involvement and a strategy for you as a company. But it's as easy as going onto our website and joining. We have committees that we've put together where companies can join. We have task forces that we're helping companies to create. Those are internal at their company that can help them work on workforce development. There's a lot of ways to get involved, but we're also trying to provide resources. So we have a careers in trucking presentation that we created. There's 6 videos embedded in it. You can go on our website, nextgentrucking.org, and go to the industry tab and download this careers in trucking presentation. You can go to your local school and give that presentation. We're also going to be creating a resource tab on our website where people can download educational resources. So, careers in trucking, what is the supply chain, those types of documents. So if they wanted to go to their local school and make sure their local school had these resources that they're available to them. So it's all about partnerships. It's all about helping. We work with a lot of the state trucking associations and other organizations like Women in Trucking and the ATA, the TCA, all of those organizations that are doing great work out there, and coming alongside them and helping them with their workforce development plans.
Awesome.
You guys got a whole thing rounded out for everybody. I love it. Are there any partnerships that your company is needing to facilitate? Something like you mentioned earlier that you partnered with another company to help educate drivers on how to maintain mental health and physical health while out there on the road. Are you guys partnered up with any safety and compliance organizations that help educate drivers on how to be compliant in that regard or how to train drivers more effectively?
Yeah, that would be great. I love that idea of how to train drivers more effectively. We work with Truck Safe Consulting, an organization, and that Brandon Wiseman, he's great, and he's helped us do some things. We have partnered with Samba Safety, JJ Keller, Luma. Um, Kelly Anderson Group. So there's a lot of education and groups that really care about training drivers and training them correctly. And so we're involved in a lot of those organizations, and we're involved in the fun organizations for us, Skills USA, those national diesel tech competitions, um, and FFA, the Future Farmers of America. So those people who are influencing education, and that's a fun thing to be a part of too.
It's awesome.
That's awesome. You guys have all kinds of stuff going on. I love it.
Yeah,
Question.
trucking needed to be represented within these organizations for a long time. So, I go and look at a convention like the American School Counselors Association. If you go look at the kind of companies or nonprofits that are there and have booths and that are talking to them, it's organizations that are trying to build up their workforce, trying to help their members build up their workforce, and trucking needs to be represented. And that's what we feel like we can do with our members and our partners, is help trucking be represented within all of these organizations that are doing great work and helping young people see these great career opportunities.
Yeah, it's really cool to see you guys grow and continue to make more and more of a change. And obviously just to hear that you're able to kind of go full time and put all your efforts towards what your passions are and what your interests are. It's really cool to see. Quick question in regards to outreach again. Obviously there's memberships. Obviously we're going into schools and we're talking to some organizations and they're affecting change within their organizations to some degree. What advice, like say there's somebody listening who's young, they're not in school anymore, they're kind of not sure where to go, and maybe they're actually interested in getting into trucking. What advice would you give them as like first steps to really go towards that with no experience?
That is a great question. I was at a conference last year, and I met a guy who's 21, and he was working, he was as a part of the conference, like food staff. And he was really excited to talk to me. He's like, "Hey, I just got my CDL, and I'm going to go work for Melton Truck Lines and through their apprenticeship program." And I was like, "Oh, this is great. Like, how did you come to get your CDL?" And he said that after high school, he had, a few different jobs, mostly like in retail and in hospitality. And he really was excited about like not having all this student loan debt with which all of his friends had. And he was like, "What can I do?" And he started researching, and he found trucking as a great opportunity. And then he was able to look up a workforce grant that would pay for his CDL. And so I would say research. There might be funding. Like, I live in Kentucky. There's funding right now where if I wanted to get my CDL, half of it could get paid for by this workforce development grant. And so there are ways that you can get your CDL for free. Maybe it's going to work for a company that will train you, invest in you. Maybe it's a dock to driver program. But I would say do your research, see what kind of job you want to do. Maybe go talk to some employers and see there's so many different driving jobs. You can work for a food distributor or over the road, or you can work for LTL, right? But they probably don't know a lot of those terms. But just doing a little research and finding out those jobs that are within your community and how you can get there, I think is what I would tell them. If somebody reaches out to me, which I do have people reach out to me, I get them connected to one of my employers that's a member that is in the community that they're in.
Amazing. Cool. Thanks. Yeah, I think it was important to give people direction. Like I said, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of direction when people are at that like end stage of high school, and they kind of just either do what somebody tells them to do, or they get lost in the sauce, so to speak, right? And figure it out
Right.
as they go. So it's cool
Yep.
to hear. Thanks.
So, what kind of benefits do organizations give if they partner with you besides potentially getting qualified drivers referred to them?
Well, it is, building up the workforce and giving back, exposure to students and those job opportunities. I would say helping them build up their workforce, networking and being a part of the movement of the next gen movement is a big thing. And we're trying to make a difference legislatively. So making sure that there's a voice for younger people within trucking. We have member benefits on our website. And so I would just say go check that out and let us help you. I love to help companies work on a plan and create that workforce development plan for their community and what they're going to do for outreach and how they're going to start the process of getting involved. And let me tell you, it's fun. It's fun to be involved in your local school, to do a career fair, to host a touch of trucking event, to talk to students with a field trip. It's really fun. It's life-giving. So just trying to have people kind of step out of their comfort zone. They go to work every day and you kind of get focused, but why don't you step outside and just see what's out there and see what you can do to give back. Really, it is a community outreach. You can give money to awareness, like cancer awareness, and there's a lot of great causes out there. But investing in your community and investing in young people, that's also community outreach. And I want to help people see that and help give them ideas of how they can do that within and help their community.
That's great.
Awesome.
That's great. Well, I know that we're running a little bit close to our time limit here, so I guess the best thing to do at this point would be to say, hey, how do people get in touch with you individually if they have questions, if they want to partner with your organization, any parting words that you have for any listeners?
Yeah, so you can follow us on LinkedIn. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Lindsey Trent. I would love to hear from you if you want to send me an email. And my email is Lindsey, that's LINDSEY at nextgentrucking.org. Get on our website and sign up for our newsletter. I mean, we send out a monthly newsletter. If you want to receive that, you can sign up for it on our website. We'll be glad to connect with you. And we go to conferences. So hopefully if you go to a conference where we're at, please come in and connect with us. And we're just really excited about what we're doing and our mission. If you have a school in your community and you think, you know what, they would be awesome. They need to start a diesel tech program, or they need to start a CDL program or a supply chain and logistics program. Let us know. We help schools. We meet with schools all the time and help them to start the process of getting one of these programs started.
It's amazing.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think
Ryan,
what's that?
I was going to see if you had anything that you wanted to say before we started wrapping everything up.
Yeah, I think it's a little important for people in the industry to realize that this is a huge opportunity for them as well, right? I mean, we're talking about obviously changing the workforce and driving the workforce to fill a need, but we're also talking about an opportunity for companies to have educated drivers, obviously educated logistics professionals, warehousing, et cetera. But also, this is a huge opportunity for overhead, because being in the insurance industry, or just seeing some of the challenges that trucking companies face monetarily, a lot of that is coming down to a lack of training. And it's huge what you're doing, the impact that you're able to make. So I kind of want to urge trucking companies out there and anybody in the industry to highly consider getting involved with NextGen, because it's going to impact your business positively on multiple fronts. And overhead is obviously one of the biggest concerns of a business. And we can talk about the cost of what it will take to replace a truck having an uneducated driver, or the cost of insurance having a driver that's not trained. So I really think it's amazing what you're doing, and I just really want to say thanks and say, urge all the truck company owners out there to really consider getting involved, because you're making a difference and we need it. Thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We love to partner with people out there and really work on our mission and help them work on their mission for workforce development. So yeah, we appreciate that plug. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Lindsey.
I definitely think Ryan's correct on that one. You guys definitely are doing a wonderful thing out there. So keep up the mission, and thank you for joining us today. We really very much appreciate it. And honestly, anybody listening, go out there and get in touch with Lindsey if you had any questions. I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised with anything she wants to share with you. That said, you can catch us, on the podcast on all the platforms that are out there. We definitely have lots of episodes out there, so check us out. And back on October of 21 is when Lindsey joined us for the first time. If you want to check that out and see where they've come as a company, that'd be great. Other than that, I got nothing else to say. So Ryan, Lindsey, any parting words before we hang up?
I think we're good. Thanks again, Lindsey.
Keep up the good work.
You as well.
Awesome.
Till next time.